Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 6B of our Scratch series. So last week we were starting on our asteroids type game in part 6A. If you haven't done last week's video, then you need to do that before you do this one. It's probably not going to make a lot of sense to you otherwise. First thing that you need to do once you get onto the Scratch site is you go to the folder there, and that will bring up the list of programs that you've got, and your Meteors one, or whatever you called that last week, you need to just click See Inside, and that will take you back to here. There's a very slight difference from the programs you did last week on this one, and that's just that the size is slightly different. Unfortunately, I lost mine and had to redo it again. So that's the only difference. Everything else should be exactly the same. So where we left it last time is when we run this, we've got our WS, A and D keys, which allow us to speed up and slow down and go backwards on that one. And you can see there when we get to the edge of the screen, then it will go off and come back on again for every direction that we have. So first thing that I'm going to do is fix the idea of it going backwards from any of these. One of the differences you might have here, which I've changed, is for the S key, we're actually changing the speed slightly more. So on the W key, we're going to speed up by 0.1, but on the S key, we're going to slow down by minus 0.5. So if yours is still saying minus 0.1, change it to minus 0.5. We're going to have another program, so we're going to go to Events, when the flag is clicked, and we're going to use a forever if again. So we start off with an if then. We're going to need our variables, and we're going to need speed. So on this one then we will need an operator, and let's start off with a greater than. So I'll put speed in there. So if the speed is greater than. Now on this, it's up to you really, but I wouldn't go above about 10 to 15, otherwise this just ends up ridiculously fast. So if we start speeding that up there, look, by the time you start getting to here, it's going too fast that you can't really see what the controls are doing, and you're just going to crash into things. So we want to put a limiter on that. So if we're going to say if the speed is greater than, say, 12, back to our variables, and we're going to set the speed to 12. So every time it starts just slightly getting above 12, it gets put back down again. I'm going to duplicate that. Underneath, we're going to take out our greater than symbol, take out the speed, drop that back over there, and this time then we want the less than symbol. So if the speed is less than 0, then we're going to set the speed to 0. Now we will still get a fraction of backwards movement on this, but it's not as bad as it was before. Final thing, if we go back to control, let's get a forever loop so it keeps checking this throughout the game, and then put those two inside. And as usual, let's run that and test it. So if we start speeding up now, should find that when our player gets to that speed of 12, even though I'm pressing the key, it's not going to do anything. And then we can slow down. We can sort of crawl backwards very slightly if we keep the key held down, but it does stop us. And changing that means that your slowing down is a lot quicker than it was before. So at that point, I would, again, save now. Next then, we're going to add one of our asteroids on here. We're not going to do a great deal with that today, but I do just at least want one on there, and then we'll finish that off and duplicate it next time. So we're going to go to down here in Sprite Tray, and we're going to go on to Paint. With the asteroids, you can actually draw something that looks like a rock, but that means that you're going to need then to get 8 costumes and rotate them to actually get any sort of smooth movement. So we're just going to keep this really simple at the moment. I want something fairly brightly coloured, so go with like a bright yellow or a bright green, something like that for these. And then we're going to click on our text tool, click over here, and we're going to put an asterisk in there. So it looks very small at the moment, but that's okay. Click on the pointer tool, get hold of a corner, and we're just going to make that quite a bit bigger. We want this large because we need to center it there. Look, if I move it out of the way, there on the center part there. And that's going to be the most difficult bit. So the bigger it is, the easier that becomes. So on there, if you want to do, then you could use your arrow keys just to sort of nudge it into place. If you notice though, this here is the rotation point, and it's in the wrong place for that. So what we're going to do now, because we're not going to worry about resizing this really big, we're going to go convert to bitmap. That will put this in the center, so don't touch it now. Up here, right click and duplicate, or if you're on the Mac, command and click. And now on our second one then, we're just going to drag a box over there, and then very carefully, I'm just going to try to rotate about 45 degrees. Around there. And that just gives us a fairly simple animation there as we go between either of them. So make sure that we're on our first asteroid sprite, and it's fairly obvious. The first thing we need to do is make it smaller. So let's, when the flag is clicked, we're going to go into looks. We're going to set size to, and as always, the first time you do it, it's just a guess. So let's try 20%. Double click the top of that. That's a little bit small, so let's go to 30%. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe 25 to 30, somewhere around that, but I think that'll be okay. So once we've got that, we're now going to start the animation with the costumes. So still in looks, if we just say next costume, let's go to control and drop a forever loop in there, next costume, and then we need some sort of delay. So again, it's just a case of guessing. Let's try 0.3 seconds and see what we get. Okay, so we're getting some rotation there. That's okay. Now we need things to start moving. So again, let's go to events. When the flag is clicked, we're going to need a forever loop. We're going to go to motion, and we're going to try again, just to experiment to start with. Let's try and move 5 steps and just let it move. Okay, so 5 steps seems to be about alright. If just drag that back again, we can get an idea of how fast it's going to be moving. So that's okay. What we want though is not for it to get stuck on the edge there, but we'd like it to come across the screen. So now we need to go back to our player sprite, and it's this quite big program that we want. So I'm going to grab hold of it and I'm going to drag it onto sprite 2, and we'll see sprite 2 sort of jiggle about a little bit when we do that. So it's my pointer that needs to go to sprite 2. You see that sort of there? It just sort of waves around a little bit. Let go. And we'll go back to sprite 2 now. It has duplicated that. So we should find that when our asteroid goes off side of the screen, it comes back again. We're going to be duplicating this later, so we don't really just want waves of them all going straight across the screen there. So we need to add some randomness in with this. So if we go to operators, I'm going to say pick random. I'm going to go from minus 180 to 180 onto motion. We want pointing direction. We're then going to drop our random in there, and we can put that just before the forever loop where it starts moving. So we should find now every time we run this, it will go in a different direction. So I'm just going to leave that for the time being. We will come back to that one next week. We're going to go back to our player sprites. Be a good idea at this point, actually, if you haven't done it yet, save it, pause the video. We've got a few changes to make. So we've got that program there, and we were changing this one, and then you need to make the asteroid sprite, and we've got these 3. So if I put it on that one there, you could pause the video and just make those changes, and then onto this one, and you can pause and just get caught up with any of those. Okay, so if everybody's up to date with each of those, we're going to go back to our player sprite. Let's actually give this a name now, so I'll call it ship or player, something like that. What we want to be able to do once we can collide with the asteroids, we want to be able to shoot at them as well. The reason we're clicking on ship is that we need to look at exactly where it is and what direction it's pointing in. So we're going to go to motion, and we've got these X position, Y position, direction. We're going to tick all of those just so we can see them on screen just for the time being. Then we're going to get some variables. To do that, we're going to go to variables, and we're going to make 3 more variables. So I'm going to go on make a variable, and we're going to call it ship X. I'm going to make another one, ship Y, and another one, ship DIRN for direction. So we've got variables that we can now use on other sprites as well. Don't worry too much about these all being on here, we'll be turning those off later. So we need a new sprite. Let's go onto sprite tray, and we're going up to paint. We need a colour now that we've not used anywhere else, so I'm going to go for a magenta colour. So click the paintbrush, magenta sort of around here between that purple and red, look. So if we get around there, make sure these two are turned up full so it's as bright as we can get. Okay, so our brush size I've got on a 10, and again we want that center point. We want to get right on that, and we just click once, so we've got just this tiny dot in the middle of the screen, and that's all we're going to need for this one. So first thing that we're going to do with this is set up our starting conditions. So where's the looks? So we don't want anyone to see this to begin with, so when the game starts this one gets hidden. Then we're going to check whether anybody's trying to actually fire from the ship. So we're going to go to sensing, and we're going to use this one when space just space key pressed into the controls, and we can use an if then. So if space key is pressed, then we're going to need a forever loop for this, so let's put that there and put this inside it. So when someone presses the space key to fire, what we need sprite 1 to do is to go to the exact same position as the ship. So we're going to need these variables. So we're going to need our ship direction, our ship X, and our ship Y. And I'm going to turn those off now. We can do the same with the motion ones as well. Make sure that we are on the actual ship before we try and do that. There we go. And then don't forget to go back to this sprite. So if the space key is pressed, back to motion, and we are going to tell our dot to go to an X of ship X, a Y of ship Y, and then we're going to have a pointing direction. I'm going to tell it to point in the same direction as the ship. So starts off hidden, then we're going to check if that is pressed, it's going to do those. Then we're going to have on our looks, we're going to show the sprite. Then we need it to move, so we're going to use a repeat loop, and I'm going to repeat, we'll leave it at 10. On our motion, we're going to tell it to move 20 steps and put that inside. Now we might change these numbers later, we'll see how that goes. So starts off hidden. If somebody presses the space key, it goes to the center of that ship and points in the same direction. It shows it, and then 10 times it moves 20 steps, so it's going to be moving fairly quickly. At the end of that, then back to looks, and we want it to hide. So we've got it to set up to use those ship X and Y variables. What we need to do now is actually go to the ship and set each of those variables and make sure that they get updated as the ship moves around. So we're going to give this its own program. So we'll go to events, and when the flag is clicked, actually just thinking about it before you start this one, go get the dot made, get that program built, pause the video so you can see that and build that before we go on to the next bit. So if we're back again onto our ship, we've got our new program here. We're going to use a forever loop on that. We're going to go to variables. So we're going to set the ship X. Then we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to set the ship Y. We're going to duplicate that, and we're going to set the ship direction. And what we're going to set those to, go back into motion, make sure we're definitely on the ship here, and it's these that we looked at before. So the X position, ship Y to the Y position, ship direction to the direction, and I'm going to drop those in there. So they should change overall as we work. So now let's run the program, press the space bar, and our missile comes out of the ship, and if we rotate we should see that working. Let's move the ship. Yeah. Now what's happening there is as we get to the edge, look, it's hitting the edge of the screen and kind of getting stuck there. So we just need to do one more thing, and it's what we've already done with the asteroid. This program again we're going to take down to our missile sprite there. So let's drop that on there into this one. Let's move that to the side. I'm going to rename this one now, and then let's try that again. So if we just go towards the edge and fire, and it should, each time we fire, let's just get there and slow down a little bit, and it should be coming, yeah, down here off the bottom of the screen, look, so that we know that we're not wasting these as we shoot any of them. We'll stop that there. So last thing you need to do then is just duplicate that up to there. Make sure please that you save. So if you haven't got a save the archive, just move a sprite, click save now, and we'll finish this next time where we can get our collisions and we'll get our scoring on and maybe add some lives for the game there. So thank you very much, and see you again next time.